I asked my girlfriend which game she thought I should platinum next. I gave her the choice of 3 games and she picked one out for me. In my last video I got the platinum for Grand Theft Auto 3 by Rockstar Games, so of course she picked another one of their classics, Bully. Bully was released in 2006 on the PS2 and later ported over to the PS4. I will be playing the 2016 re-released PS4 version of the game, which PSN Profiles gives a 4 out of 10 difficulty, taking 20 hours to complete, requiring only one playthrough to get the platinum. My only experience playing this game is the demo disc I owned as a kid that had this on there. That would only let me play about 15 to 20 minutes at a time before resetting, so I was very excited to check this out. The game starts off with the main character Jimmy getting dropped off at school by his mom and her new boyfriend before they head off on a cruise together.
Jimmy, please say something.
After his mom and her new boy toy leave us to survive on our own on the side of the road, we are met by the principal's secretary who welcomes us to Bullworth Academy and tells us the principal is waiting for us in his study. We make our way to Dr. Crabblesnitch's office where he checks out Jimmy's past record and realizes that he's dealing with an absolute menace to society.
Done a lot of naughty things, haven't you? Vandalism, graffiti, bad language, violent conduct, disrespecting staff.
I'm not sure if he is into that kind of thing or something, but after he reads Jimmy's record, he says some questionable things about wanting to be our friend and keeping his nose clean.
I've got a good feeling about you, boy. A feeling you and I are going to be great friends.
So after getting hit on by the head principal of the school, we start chapter 1 and are sent off to our dorm to put on the school uniform. Right before we can get into the front door to go changed, we are met by 3 bullies and learn the fighting mechanics of this game. After kicking this kid's ass and giving him a snake bite from hell, this big sloth from the Goonies clone comes out of the dorms and sucker punches me. Luckily, a teacher came over and broke it up before I was allowed to unleash even a fraction of my power back onto him. Afterwards, we finally head into the dorm and meet the main villain of this game, Gary. It's rather confusing at first because he plays it off like he wants to be my friend, but in reality, he's actually in the background turning every clique in the school against me. But more on that later. In this first part, he is our tour guide and shows us around the school. After getting a drink and putting on the uniform, we meet a fellow student named Pete who is looking to be our friend. This poor kid is constantly taken advantage of throughout the game. You just can't help but feel bad for him. After Gary comes in and interrupts our conversation, he shows me the way to school where I finished my first class, Chemistry 1. It was basically just a Guitar Hero ripoff and was super simple. Following my first class, I met up with the principal in the front of the school where he reflects on his time touching kids growing up.
Why, in my day, we felt nothing of castrating the new boys.
The conversation is overheard by one of the students who calls me a snitch for talking to the teachers. He then shoots me with a slingshot and runs away like a little pussy. After chasing him down and beating up all his friends, I easily kick this kid Davis's ass and steal his slingshot so that I can use it going forward. Hopefully teaching him a lesson not to mess with me. Acting like I didn't just beat up 20 students in school and steal from one of them, I went straight to my next class and completed my first English lesson. Now that class was done for the day, I ran over to the dorms and overheard Gary spreading lies to Pete about me. After Gary cup checks him, he wants me to go over to the football field to show off my new slingshot I got by annoying the jocks and shooting them from a tree. After Gary got to see the slingshot Chris Kyle in action, I went over and helped out this bowling ball of a human who was letting it all breathe. He needed to get to his locker in school after hours so that he could get some library books to return before they were overdue. On the way to his locker, Algie says he's going to have an accident if we don't stop at the bathroom. While he's chopping logs in the stall, some students came in to try and fight us, but I quickly took care of them before any orderlies saw us. Soon after that, we got to Algie's locker where he was able to get his books and I completed the mission. One of the ways you learn moves in this game is by grabbing car parts around the map for a homeless man living behind a bus out behind the school. I find him his first part and he lets me beat him up while he teaches me a new attack. Following the filming of the newest edition of Bum Fights, we went back to class and completed Art 1 and got our first trophy to pop for completing 3 classes.
That's excellent, Jimmy.
Now that I have unlocked my first trophy in the game, there really is no turning back and we must continue towards the platinum. So I went ahead and knocked out my next couple of classes and got my next trophy to pop for completing 6 of them.
Well done. I can't help but wonder how you do with a more challenging curriculum.
After finishing up a handful of lessons, I come across the leader of the nerds getting bullied in the hallway for his class president posters. Once Ernest is done tasting fabric from the wedgie of hell he just received, He asks me to help protect him at his speech and make sure nobody tries to interrupt him. It's what I imagine Lincoln's assassination looked like as I took out the bullies with my slingshot from the auditorium balcony. Finally, I got rid of the last one and was rewarded with a new upgraded slingshot that is even more accurate and powerful for protecting Ernest during his speech. Immediately following that, we fast forwarded to Halloween, where the little prick Gary and I are in the dorm rooms plotting some pranks to pull on the students and faculty around the school. I dressed up as my favorite Fortnite skin, the Skull Trooper, while I'm not so sure what Gary was going with. He convinces me to pull off 5 smaller pranks leading up to a bigger one to cap it all off. The pranks range from egging students to tripping kids with marbles or even putting a kick me sign on their back. After I finished up all 5 smaller pranks, Gary and I grabbed a fresh steaming bag of dog poop and set it outside the teacher's party in the lounge and pulled the fire alarm so that they would come and stomp it out, Billy Madison style.
Judas Priest Barber is one of those flaming bags again.
I'm not sure if Gary got a little bit of it on him or something, because after our fun time pulling pranks, he and I are in the dorms and he starts going off about how he stopped taking his pills and how he's going to take over the school. He eventually runs off to the school basement, leading me into a trap where I have to fight the big blockhead Russell from earlier. This fight was pretty easy, as I basically just sidestepped him the entire time and let him run into the wall, damaging himself until the fight was over. Once it was finished, I got my 3rd trophy to pop for completing Chapter 1. At the start of Chapter 2, I start off by finishing up a couple classes and then helping some teachers do some tasks for them. The first one being for our English teacher, Mr. Galloway. Apparently, he has a problem being too hydrated during class, so I'll have to go help find his hidden whiskey stashes around the school and bring the bottles back to our art teacher, Miss Phillip. After Galloway gets the help he needs, we run to the cafeteria where we met the human version of Shrek, better known as the Lunch Lady. This task for her unlocks the ability to leave the school and travel around the map freely in between classes. Edna needed us to run into town and grab some supplies for her date that is coming up. Now that I can roam around the map freely, it unlocks the Prep Boxing Club, which I head over to try and unlock the save point for beating up all of the Prep Lick members. After getting in the ring with a couple of them and giving them the 1-2 Mayweather, I end up winning and unlocking the Beach House save point. The next trophy I got came after I took this bop to the carnival and won her a bear to gain her affection. The carnival happens at night, so by the time I ended up winning enough tickets to get her the bear, it was way past curfew. This caused me to get my 4th trophy for staying out 5 in-game hours after curfew. After our date, the next morning, I went and did a bike race across town where if I won, I would end up unlocking the ability to do races around the map, which I will need to complete to get all the trophies unlocked back in my dorm room later in the game. Once I dusted the kids on my bike and went to collect my trophy for winning, it gets stolen from me at the shop by some kids who I chased down and beat up to reclaim it. After teaching them a lesson not to mess with Jimmy, I unlocked the ability to do bike races around the map. To continue showing off my impressive athletic prowess, I biked over to the boxing club again to try and take on the preps and show them that I am superior to all of them and that they need to bring an army to take me down. Once I made light work of the couple of clowns in the ring, I hopped out and worked my way upstairs where I would take on Derby and the rest of the prep clique until they are all knocked out taking a nap on the ground. Finishing this gets me my next 2 trophies. The first for completing Chapter 2 and the next for gaining max popularity from 2 cliques in the school at one time. At the start of Chapter 3, I continued going to class to make sure I pass every lesson of each subject, starting off with Shop 2 and Photography 3, which just required me to take strange photos of the students in the school. The next trophy-related task and main story mission has me going to a comic book shop where the nerds are having a secret meeting in the basement and say I am only allowed in if I can beat the high score on the Consumo arcade machine. This is 1 out of the 3 required high scores needed on arcade machines in this game to complete the Dual Nebula trophy. I will revisit this and get the other 2 later in the game, but for now, I just barely beat the high score of Consumo, which unlocks me a new save point at the Nerds Hangout. After beating the high score, I helped out the leader of the Greaser clique lure in some preppy kids to a Tony Hawk Pro Skater lookalike map where we have a duel to the death on some bike. This is all because the leader of the Greaser, Johnny, his girl likes to get around town, and he was jealous and thought he would make a lesson out of these kids. After we kicked all their asses, I met up with Johnny's girl, Lola, and she asked me to break into the Greaser's hideout to try and get her stuff back. After I grab 3 of her things, I get put into a fight with Norton, who has a sledgehammer that I will need to break down some of the walls to get Lola's remaining stuff. Once I karate kicked Norton into oblivion, I picked up his sledgehammer and started smacking down walls like the Kool-Aid Man until I had all of Lola's stuff to take back to her. Once I took it back to her, she seduced me and had her way with me. I'm sure that will make Johnny very happy. Of course, Cuck Johnny caught wind of what happened and wanted to fight me in some dark alley where we end up getting interrupted by cops and try to outrun them. I start to get away when all of a sudden I get tripped and lured into a trap where all the greasers and Johnny are trying to game end me. Luckily, I'm just that guy and they couldn't touch me. I quickly dispatched all his loser friends on the edge of the ring and took care of Johnny shortly after, which unlocked my 7th trophy for completing Chapter 3. Much like the previous one, Chapter 4 starts off with me going to class making sure I'm not missing any lessons. I then followed that up with my first couple attempts at doing a side job for money. This game has a couple of side jobs around the city where I can mow some lawns or deliver some paper to make extra cash to spend on clothes and other useful items throughout the game. Doing these lawn mowing jobs will also get me closer to 10 total lawns mowed, which is a trophy that I will need later in this game. In between going to classes, I run into this little kid in the halls who has an errand for me to run. I will be required to complete 30 errands throughout the game in order to get the trophy Mama's Boy. The kid asks me to take a firecracker and throw it in the toilet, making it explode. In completing this errand, I get the trophy Helping Hand for completing 10 errands. After I finished up my final gym class, I ran over to the nerd stronghold to try and defeat head nerd Ernest, because Gary had been filling his mind with lies and turning the nerds against me. This meant I had to go to their stronghold, kick some nerd ass, and knock some sense into these cornballs. After I stormed the front gate and was able to knock Ernest off the spud gun, I took control of it and shot down their front door until I was able to break in and fight Ernest 1v1. Once I got inside, I just had to shoot down some of the Transformers holding up Ernest on a platform until he eventually falls down and gives in to me. This unlocks a spud gun for me to use at all times throughout the game. Now that I have put the nerds back in place and showed them who's really in charge, they are asking me to help rescue a couple of their members from a funhouse at the carnival. I rode my skateboard all the way over there and had to play one whole ass dollar in to go save these guys. After I got to the funhouse, I ran into some jocks who were holding Bucky and Fatty hostage. I ran around the room dropping marbles, which made the jocks slip and fall, which got me my 9th trophy to pop for tripping 25 people with marbles. Following completing a couple more classes, I helped out Ernest start his master plan of ruining the big football game for the jocks as revenge for what they did to his boys at the funhouse. Part 1 of his plan required me to go and steal the mascot costume so that I could wear it around school. In order to do this, I just stood at the top of the steps near the football field and sniped him with my slingshot enough times until he got pissed off and chased me to the pool, where him and I scrapped until I beat him up and took the costume off him. Now that I acquired the mascot outfit, I met up with Ernest again and he runs me through his master plan and tells me everything I needed to do. From putting glue on the benches to dropping marbles on the field or even peeing in the Gatorade cooler, I did what needed to be done. After successfully completing all the pranks, we are in a fight against the leader of the jocks, Ted, and the rest of the football team. We dodged footballs filled with explosives and threw it back at them to do some damage to get in close and eventually knock out Ted, making the jocks the newest group of bitches to control. Once finishing the fight, my 10th trophy pops for completing Chapter 4. Just like the last 2 chapters, this one starts off with me completing some classes so I can get all of them done so I don't have to redo anything later in the game. After completing my final photography class, I met up with all the cliques in the dorms where they hype me up and tell me I should go tag the city hall building and show the town who's really boss. I make my way down there and climb up top and spray my tag, then take a photo from the bottom to really bask in my artwork. While this was going on, Gary was back at the school spreading lies about me, turning everyone against me, causing the school to go into absolute chaos. To try and get back in everyone's good graces, I ended up running around the school helping each separate clique with a different task to save them from some sort of peril. Starting off with the nerds, they have their library overrun with rats, making them too scared to go in and study. After Piss Pants climbs all over me and they beg for help, I run in and start plinking off rats off the floor like fish in a barrel. Upon killing 20 rats, I end up getting in the good graces of the nerds again. Next up was to save the jocks and their gym from burning down. I ran over to help, but was accosted by the football coach who blamed me for starting the fire. I politely called him a pussy as he stood and watched it burn down, and ran in to save the students and his players by myself. I grabbed a fire extinguisher off the wall and ran around putting out all the fires in the gym and lifting any fallen debris off of anyone. Eventually, we got everyone out safe and saved the gym from burning to the ground like the streets of Chicago in 1871. I got revenge on the dickhead coach when I caught him running in the park, taking a dump in the porta potty, and ran it off the hill with a lawnmower, giving him a nice steamy shower. After giving coach a dookie shower, I hopped back over to school and finished up my last class. After welding some parts on my bike, I got my 11th trophy to pop for completing all classes. I went over to help out the preppies next. They said someone had broken into their boxing gym and stole all their precious trophies. Who could ever do such a horrible thing? Anyways, I agreed to help find them because they thought it was me, so I set out to prove them wrong. I caught wind that the townies may have something to do with it, so I ran to a factory where I catch them downtown putting mice in a crate, much like the one from the library. I tried to take a photo for proof and got caught immediately and failed the mission. When I was running away from them, I hopped on my skateboard and finally got the trophy for riding 50 kilometers on it. This is really annoying because I was about 13 hours in and I had been non-stop riding the skateboard or walking everywhere, and I somehow just got that trophy. I still have to walk 100 kilometers and bike 100 kilometers to get those respective trophies at well, but we'll do those later in the game. After I loaded in and retried the preppies mission, I was finally able to get a trophy of the townies loading up their rats, and then followed them down to the docks where I caught them burning all of the trophies on a boat. I snap a quick photo of that and return them to show my proof. For some reason, they still think it was me who did it, but honestly, I couldn't care less because I got my 13th trophy after completing this mission for having $1,000 cash in my pocket. Now that I got fat pockets, I must have made the teachers jealous or something, because I end up in the principal's office and he starts going off on me for all the alleged horrible things I've done this year. Once he's done bitching, he tells me that I'm expelled from school and he will be reaching out to my mom once she's back from her hoe trip. I no longer have access to school activities outside of sleeping in my dorm after this. So I go find Russell and ask for his help to get proof that I'm not the mastermind behind all the issues at the school and that it's really Gary. Russell and I hop on a couple of bikes and ride over to the townies' hideout. Once we pull up, Russell has the genius idea to just run full speed ahead into a gate and blows it up, making a nice opening for us to run right through. Now that I'm in the townie hideout, I easily dust up the peons and make my way to Edgar, the leader of the group. During these fights, I get my 14th trophy for knocking out 200 opponents. Edgar's fight was pretty simple and just consisted of me picking up a pipe and spamming him with it until he eventually was knocked out. To make our escape, I quickly made my way back to Russell, where we had to run out the entrance he had just blew up and try to escape from the cops. Luckily, they are as blind as a bat and didn't see me get pulled inside the building right in front of them, and they just run right by. Here, I get Edgar and his boys to help me take over the school and show Gary who's really in charge. After getting back to the school, I finish up taking back control of the greasers, jocks, and preps, all by going to certain spots around the school and beating the cliques into submission until they realize I'm the one in charge. Once taking back control over all the cliques in the school and having the townies back me, Gary realized it's him versus the world and challenges me to a fight on top of the school. We both somehow survive a fall from the roof and land on some scaffolding where we end up fighting, and I knock him out to get my next trophy for completing chapter 5. Once I knocked him out, we ended up falling down below into the principal's office, where he overheard everything Gary said to me on the roof. He essentially confessed to plotting all the pranks and everything bad that has been going on here since I've arrived. So Dr. Crabblesnitch says he will no longer keep me expelled and put in a good word for me to my mom. That was the last mission of the game, and now it is free roam time to collect any missing trophies I didn't get during the story. The game took me just under 16 hours to finish, and I still had not gotten the trophy to pop for running and biking 100 kilometers. I was still 40 kilometers off of walking and just under 70 kilometers remaining for biking, even after finishing all the bike races around town already. So instead of doing those long grindy ones right away, I decided to knock out any easy ones left, the first one being kick a soccer ball 100 times. I found one right outside the boys' room and just kicked it around for about 10 minutes until this trophy eventually popped. The next trophy I wanted to go for was to pick 50 flowers. This one in theory should have been really easy, You can carry up to 10 flowers at a time and should be able to go up to any girl and give it to them as a gift to clear my inventory for room to pick more. The only problem is you unlock the ability where all girls have a crush on you after about the second chapter in the game. So that means you do not need to give them flowers and they will just kiss you right away. This made it 100 times harder to get rid of my flowers to pick new ones because there were only 2 people around the map that I could give them to, and they were both boys. So I was sat here for about 45 minutes of running around the school trying to collect flowers, find those 2 kids, give them the flowers, and then run away hoping they spawn elsewhere. In this process of doing this, I ended up kissing them and getting the trophy for 25 kisses to pop. To try and wipe the taste out of my mouth, I ran to the store to go and buy some sodas. After buying 100 of them, I get the next one to pop for buying 100 sodas in-game.
Goodbye.
I've played roughly 18 hours at this point, and the trophies were really starting to flood in quickly after not really getting many through the story. I went to the carnival and knocked out the first 5 go-kart races they have to offer, unlocking my 19th trophy.
No shame in losing to the best.
And then finished up the rest of the races to unlock my 20th trophy for completing all go-kart races.
Like that.
Since I was already at the carnival, I wanted to try and get some of the carnival game related trophies unlocked. I started with the shooting gallery, which required me to shoot 300 bottles to unlock the trophy. This one was pretty easy, it just took me 10 to 15 games to shoot enough bottles for it to pop. Next, I ran over and went for the Dual Nebula trophy, which requires me to get 3 high scores on different arcade games across the map. Luckily, 2 of them were located in the carnival prize tent, so I headed right over there after the shooting gallery. The first game I played was Monkey Fling, which was pretty boring, but also pretty simple. After getting the high score on that game, I went and tried the dreaded Nutshot high score. When reading up on the trophies on this game, this was one of the trophies people had the hardest difficulty getting, saying they made it super hard for no reason. There's all these videos online of exploits on how to become invincible, but I went into it and was just going to give it a fair shot before even trying to use the exploits. And let me tell you, it isn't nearly as bad as everyone online was making it out to be. I think after only like 2 or 3 tries, I got my score up to 67,000, which was only 2,000 off the high score. So after 1 or 2 more tries, I was able to get the high score and my 21st trophy for achieving all high scores on the arcade machines. With about 2/3 of the trophies done, I head back to the school to get a bunch of the remaining ones done back around campus. The first one I went for was to try and give 50 wedgies. I thought it would be funny to try and give one to a teacher, but he ended up catching me and throwing me in my first detention of the game. The punishment was to mow the lawn of the school, which ended up giving me my next trophy for mowing 10 lawn.
Jimmy Hopkins, the lip.
To show the teacher I really didn't learn any lessons, after detention, I immediately went back to bullying kids. I found this one kid playing basketball and just stood there verbally abusing him from the sidelines like I was a fan at a Boston Celtics game. I said probably close to 60 or 70 straight taunts to this kid to pop the trophy for saying 100 taunts.
Jerk, you got nothing. Are you inbred or just naturally dumb?
And to make sure that he had enough, I went and started giving him and his buddies non-stop wedgies until the trophy popped for giving 50 of those as well.
Will ever like me? Will this ever?
Taking a break from bullying kids, I stepped away from the school and decided to try and get some more of the errands knocked out needed on my way to get the 30 total for Mama's Boy trophy. After delivering this guy's Amazon package of fleshlights, I got my 26th trophy for completing 20 errands. When I was out and about, I decided to run around and get the last thing I needed to unlock the last dorm room trophy display. To get this, I had to run around and smash 25 gnomes on the map. I had already kicked 9 of them during the story mode, so I just needed to run around and kick the remaining 16 of them. After finding the last one, and then running back into my dorm so they could load, the trophy pops for collecting all dorm room trophies. Now that I was back at school, I just wanted to get the stupid ass flower trophy out of the way. So I sat there for another 20 minutes just picking up flowers, looking for those 2 specific kids to spawn in around the map so I could give them 1 flower, then run away and look for them again to give them another flower. After a total of close to an hour of picking flowers and giving them as gifts to the 2 boys, I finally got the 28th trophy for picking 50 flowers. Now, to try and get my credibility up around the school after being seen kissing and giving flowers to boys, I decided it was time to go for the stink bomb trophy. To go for this, I just pulled the fire alarm in the dorm room so a bunch of people would clump up by the door trying to escape, and I just threw a couple at them until the trophy popped for hitting 50 people with stink bombs. With only a handful of trophies left and the end was in sight, I hopped on a bike and just rode around the front of the school, stealing kids' bikes and popping wheelies non-stop so I could get the trophy for doing 200 wheelies and for stealing 20 bikes.
Could you stop with the random aggression, please?
Once I got both of those, I then just pedaled the bike around town, trying to get closer to the 100 kilometers bike needed. In the process of doing that, I would hop off my bike anytime I saw a car and would throw an egg at it. After 20 attempts, I got my 30-second trophy for egging 20 cars.
I'm gonna get you!
I then proceeded to go and complete the last couple of errands needed to unlock the trophy for Mama's Boy for completing 30 errands throughout the game.
You're all right.
With only 7 trophies left, I decided to say screw it and just go for the Tour de Bulworth trophy. I biked in circles around the map non-stop for an entire hour-and-a-half recording. This trophy might be one of the most boring things I've done next to playing My Name is Mayo. The fact that I didn't even get close to getting this through my natural playthrough is insane. But after all that time biking in circles, I was finally close to getting it. I ended up crashing into a light pole, which caused me to fall off my bike. When I did that, I got up and got a trophy to pop for walking 100 kilometers.
That's not what I thought would happen.
I immediately hopped back on, and within 10 seconds, the trophy popped for biking 100 kilometers as well. With the 2 most grindy trophies out of the way, I only had 2 more to get. I had to run around town and spend about 30-45 minutes doing side jobs and errands so that I could get enough money to go and buy 250 clothing items, which would get me my 36th trophy. Now, all that was left to do to get the platinum trophy was to get 160,000 bully points. Easy enough. Remember when I said I got the 2 most grindy trophies out of the way? Well, I was very, very wrong. After doing everything the game had to offer, completing every mission, every side quest, doing every side job, pulling countless pranks, and getting arrested throughout the city, I was still at only 86,000 points. How they expected to me have almost double of that by this point in the game is beyond me. I went around all the forums online to try and find the most efficient way to get bully points, and I tried them all. From sitting in the dorm room and throwing the rubber band ball after pulling the fire alarm, to running over adults with the go-kart, it all seemed to just take forever and I was making no progress. Eventually, I just settled on the method of sitting in the tree downtown and shooting people with the slingshot until I eventually got enough points for the trophy to pop, along with the platinum. To close it out, my thoughts on this game were that it was super fun and I hope they make a second one. I saw rumors of it, but it seems like that's all they are, is just a rumor. I would give this game a solid 73 out of 100 Russells. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, comment what games you think I should try and platinum next, and make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out any games in the future.
I just bought the X and then another one. I just took a tab, I'm talking to the sun. I just bought the meter, I can't go to sleep. I just fucked your bitch while my bitch Jodeci.